Welcome to the first edition of the Summer Mailbag. I'm Evan Rogers, joined by Inside Carolina's Taylor Vippolis. This is a little short video series we're going to be doing. We're going to be answering some of the pressing questions regarding UNC football as we count down the days to the season starts. And starting off, Taylor, one of the most pressing questions with this UNC team is, do you think the defense will be better this season under first-year defensive coordinator Geoff Collins?
I'm going to take the glass half full approach here because I don't know how the defense could be worse. And when you add in new defensive coordinator Geoff Collins coming in and you combine that with the fact that Carolina returned 7 starters on defense, I would assume that the even the average Carolina fan will be able to see a noticeable improvement on the defensive side of the ball. The one worry that I do have with this defense, besides just banking on like Carolina has recruited well and those players are going to make the jump, is that last year Cedric Gray was essentially that unit's quarterback. And when you talk to people around the program, the consensus seemed to be that if you took Cedric Gray off that defense, for a defense that was already one of the worst defenses in Power 5 football, if you just took him off the defense, that those guys would be running out there like chickens without their heads. So I do think that is a bit of concern, and finding somebody who can be that vocal leader, who can be somebody who can get people lined up and be able to kind of understand their assignments. I will say, though, from talking to coaches and people close to the Carolina program, they love how this secondary is kind of shaking up for Carolina. Starting at the cornerback position, this is the most confident that I can remember people from Carolina being going into a training camp in quite some time, with Marcus Allen and Elijah Huzzy's ability and coverage. Where I do get that worry, though, it's that this is your third defensive coordinator in Mac Brown's tenure in Chapel Hill, and I do think a lot of the reliance is on these players that you're kind of counting on to take this jump: the Jahvaree Ritzies, the Des Evans, the Travis Shaws, those guys you're kind of waiting year 2, year 3, year 4 to see them kind of reach their full potential.
Yeah, I think it starts and ends with the guy I mentioned in the question. I think Geoff Collins can be a big difference maker in his first year. I think when you had Bateman, maybe the defense was too complex. I mean, you had guys like Des Evans dropping into coverage when that's not what he's supposed to be doing. And then when you had Gene Chizik, maybe the defense was a little too conservative, too bend, don't breaky. Geoff Collins is simple and he's aggressive. So you kind of get the best of two worlds with those. And we saw that in this spring when you watch their practices, them disguising blitzes and bringing pressures from, opposite sides or weak sides. And I think, like you said, that secondary is really going to be a key. It's something that I don't think UNC has had since Mac Brown has been back. I think that secondary can be a strength not only of the defense, but of the team. And I would also expect an improvement of this defense. And like you said, it can't get much worse. Even though they are adding 3 more teams to the ACC, I guess in theory they could drop into 15th or 16th in the ACC in total defense, but I'm going to assume they're going to take a jump forward.
And with Geoff Collins and looking at where Carolina's kind of been at defensively with their defensive coordinator since Mac Brown got back, there's people that feel like Jay Bateman didn't have the necessary tools in place to be as successful as he could have been, and then you swap him out for Gene Chizik, who thought that he could make it work with the pieces given, but Gene Chizik's defensive philosophy didn't really match the personnel that UNC has. It was based around having this strong defensive line that can win without really sending pressure in a cover 2 shell where you're keeping everything in front of you, you're trying to limit the big plays. It was, in theory, a bend but don't break defense, but when you're watching them play against Virginia and you're watching them play against Georgia Tech, they were bending and they were breaking like a flimsy pencil. So you're looking at this North Carolina team with their overall success or their lack of success on defense. You replace Tim Cross. He's not coaching the defensive line, which has underperformed since Mac Brown's come back relatively to where they've kind of recruited. You mentioned the silver lining for this Geoff Collins defense. It's a defense that relies heavily on creating havoc plays, and that's not something we really saw with Gene Chizik's defense. It's emphasizing the sacks, it's emphasizing the interceptions, the tackles for a loss, the plays that get your defense off the field as fast as possible. And I saw an article that Greg had with a stat that I really liked, where according to True Media, UNC ranked 84th nationally in havoc rate in 2023 after ranking 129th in 2022. So I think if you are Carolina and you are a Carolina fan, the hope is that Geoff Collins is going to bring an attacking style defense at Chapel Hill and being the ones that are forcing the action instead of being so reactive.